Hey, guys, and welcome to our podcast, One More Thing. This is where we talk about our latest sermon series and what hit the cutting room floor. My name is Crystal Culp, and I'm the pastor of adult discipleship here at First Church. And today, I have 2/3 of our executive team with me. Pastor Bob Moss is right here next to me, and Pastor Bill Shepard there on the end. And so
there's like ravenous applause going on the other side.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yep. And then, of course, I have my partner in crime, as usual, every week, Pastor Jake Seaton.
Hey, everybody.
Who is our campus worship pastor over at our Stevensville campus, along with so many other jobs that he wears a lot of hats around
I have a big
here.
hat rack in my
Yes,
office.
he does. Yes, he does. But
Like, for
very
instance, this
thankful
very
for
thing.
you. Yes.
That's right.
Very thankful.
One more thing.
One more thing.
One
That's
more
right.
thing.
One more thing.
So we are in this series, practicing the way of Jesus, and the tagline is "Be with Jesus, become like Him, and do as He did." And the practice that we focused in on this week was practicing the way of community. And I was here at the St. Joe campus where Pastor Bill spoke, and then Pastor Bob spoke over at our Benton Heights campus this week. And so we just want to talk about that. So the first question for you guys is, was there anything that hit the cutting room floor for you? Anything you didn't have time to share that you kind of wish you could have shared in the moment?
You know, I actually thought about that a little bit. And
Yeah.
I mean, there was a lot in this passage that we could have unpacked. But I feel like we had a pretty clear idea about where we wanted to go. So that kept the cutting room floor cleaner than perhaps it would have been if we kind of started with a blank slate and just
Yeah.
like, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
So you're just saying no?
In the roundabout way, yes, that's what I'm saying. Is nope. You told me to talk more, use more words, and sometimes.
Yeah. So what about you, Pastor Bob? Was there anything that hit the
Yeah,
cutting room
there's
floor
a
for you?
couple of things I wish I could have spent more time on.
Yeah.
You know, John Mark Comer in Practicing the Way talked about how salvation is a communal experience. And I think for most Americans, that's a tough concept.
It is.
Because we always say, do you know Jesus as your personal Savior? Which is not wrong language, but he was trying to express that being a part of the community of faith, really, if you read the scriptures, you see that community was always the theme. That's how Israel was formed, to be a community of faith. And so then, just to tag on to that, this little phrase, and the Lord added to the church daily those who were being saved. And I wish I could have spent more time on that, because I expressed that many times people come into the community and they sense that there's something that draws them there, and they feel a sense of belonging to the community even before they belong to the Lord. And so I closed my message by asking people if they were tired of being a spiritual tag-along, that Jesus really wants to adopt you into this community and to become a part of His family. And so that's really where I wish I could have just spent more time, because there's a lot of meat right there in that sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That reminds me of, so I was, last weekend I was out of town because I was speaking at a women's conference, and the whole idea of redemption versus redeeming. Redemption is that finished work of Jesus. And the redeeming is that ongoing work that He's doing in our lives daily. It's this process. And so, yeah, I love that thought. And I really think, that redemption piece is that piece that is between you and the Lord. It's that finished work that Jesus did on the cross for you.
Yeah.
But redeeming, I think, takes a village.
It really does. You know, Gil Stafford, one of our great writers in the Church of God, wrote a book called The Life of Salvation. And he was expressing in his theological way that we enter into a life of salvation more than just a moment of salvation. And that's what you were just talking about, Crystal. Yeah.
And I think it's a communal thing
Yeah.
that John Mark Comer also speaks about.
Yeah.
Is that so many people, I think they have this moment where they accept Jesus as their Savior and they call it good. But it really does take a community speaking into one another,
Yes.
praying for each other, caring for others, which was so clearly laid out in this passage that I think sometimes people forget that
Yeah.
it does take the family of God to be together to really to grow in your faith.
And to correct us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, accountability is a big thing in
Yes.
our lives. And, because a lot of us struggle with self awareness, but if we have a community that we trust,
Yeah.
they help us be more self aware.
You know, sometimes
we
we
need to grow.
develop an attitude about something.
Man, we do.
And we need somebody to call us on
Yeah.
it. You know,
Yeah. Attitude adjustments very rarely happen in private.
in private. That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
So this brings up a really good conversation too. So, this whole idea of practicing the way of community, I think there's a personal element to it that I want us to talk about here, the four of us. What is this? How does this look in your life, and what difference has this practice made in your own personal life? This is the one thing that I've enjoyed about doing the podcast in this series is that we've gotten to talk about these practices in how they impact our personal lives and how we put them into practice. And so, first of all, tell me what impact has this had in your life, this practice of community, but also tell us how you have continued to practice this in your life.
I think for me, and for both my wife and I, as we entered this church, we hadn't been here but 5 minutes, it seemed. And we had people saying, "Hey, come be a part. Come be with us. Help us in this area or whatever." So there was this immediate connection with people, and that grew into a discipleship group that we have had over the years. Different iterations of who was in it, but over the years, it's that discipleship group that really has challenged us and loved us and cared for us and pushed us to grow spiritually and prayed for each other. That really, I think, made our experience here at First Church such a warm and positive one. That I think if nobody had done that, if no one had reached out,
Yeah.
or had we not been in that small group, I think we might have been more apt to go check out another community of believers. But that was not the case for us. I think that was pivotal for us as a young couple, and both collectively as well as individually. That community was so important,
Yeah.
and that really was formative in our years as a young married couple.
Yeah. That's good. So how do you practice? How do you continue to practice that?
So we've had small groups of people that have changed over time. And I think there are seasons in everybody's life where you're maybe more all in than you are in other seasons of our lives. I specifically, as our children got into the high school years and things like that, it was harder to meet because we were running kids everywhere and we were all kind of doing that same thing. But we have still made some very deep friendships here in the church that we continue to stay connected with. We continue to do community together. We continue to break bread together. We continue to pray for each other. We continue to do those things. It's not quite as formal as it was in some points.
Yeah.
But that element, the people we've connected, and the importance of that has remained true for us.
Good. What about you, Pastor Bill? Pastor Bob. Pastor Bill, Pastor
Wrong-
Bob.
wrong beat.
Pastor Bob.
Yeah.
The one without as much hair. Maybe.
That's right. Yeah, even as you were sharing, Bill, I was thinking I think my story about community goes back even further. When I was a small boy, my grandpa was my pastor. He was a church planter, and being in a small church, being the grandson of the pastor gave you certain credibility, I guess, because you kind of got noticed. But I recognized there were a lot of older men, and they seemed ancient to me at the time, who took an interest in me and encouraged me and said kind things to me. And it kind of set me on a course that I think back through my life, and I realized that I've almost always cherished relationships with older guys. I had mentors who were older pastors or even retired pastors. And I was kind of thinking about that list of people. Most of them are in the grave now. Well, actually, they're with Jesus right now. And then I had the experience of kind of looking in the mirror and saying, hey, wait a minute. I'm one of the older guys.
You're one of the older
You
guys.
know, when I came here as a young pastor, there were
With
some
hair.
older guys. That's right. I was 36, and I came here as a senior pastor, and there were some older guys that most people would know their names, who mentored me. You know, they were the age of my dad or older, and I calculated the other day. Oh, wait a minute! I'm now the age that they were. You know, I have a responsibility.
As in ancient? Not what, that's what
It's
you
kinda
said
like-
earlier.
It's kind of like ancient.
You said
yeah, that's right.
ancient earlier.
Yeah, I know I must look ancient. You know, as we passed out candy at trunk or treat, they're like, "Who's that old guy over there?" You know, in the pumpkin car passing out candy. But I realized that that's a big part of community, is encouraging the younger generations and making them feel seen and appreciated. We have young worship leaders here who are coming up, and I try to make it a point to befriend them and to thank them for leading us in worship. It's like a responsibility as the years go by that you have to pay attention and own it. But it's part of being a community.
Yeah, you were talking about people in your past, and I was just thinking about the people here that embraced us, that mentored with us, that helped us grow in our walk. People, some of which have gone on to be with Jesus, but were really instrumental in helping us grow in our faith.
Amen.
And that's all. You know, they weren't necessarily maybe in our small group, but they were people that we connected with, that mentored with us, that shared with us, that pushed us, that would always come to us and how you doing, or how are things going, or I'm praying for you through that situation. That were just really, really key people in our lives.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Pastor Jake, put you on the spot.
Hi.
What about you? How does this practice, what has this meant to you, and how do you continue to practice that in your life?
So I have a couple of thoughts on this. In the season, you mentioned, Pastor Bill, about the season of life when, you know, you have high school age kids and like younger kids, and how you're like running around all over the place and, you know, all this stuff. To me, there's also this element that the community of believers, especially when you have as many kids as I do, that's its own little community of church. And we talk about church, and we do church together. We even serve together in some ways. When we do the gathering, it's actually this really beautiful thing. The boys have actually started to serve. Silas has been in tech class with me in the last little bit, and so he's helping the sound tech on for the gathering, and Finn is helping to play the cajon at the gathering, and so the boys are getting this community thing of serving, and all of us together talking about and breaking bread together every meal that we possibly can, all those kinds of things, right? So there's a little bit of a familial aspect of that to me. That's really, really critical, because if I can't get discipleship right with my family, I can't get it right anywhere else. So I want to start there. The other kind of aspect I wanted to talk about in this realm is worship. I know you're shocked. You're shocked that I want to talk about worship.
Do you like worshiping?
I do. And here's, I think there's some that might disagree with me, but I'll fight them tooth and nail. Worship is a corporate thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is a community-based thing.
Experience.
You know, I might have, back in my late teens, early 20s, maybe I would have disagreed, because I think there was this movement of like personal worship being, you know, oh, I like it when I'm in this, it's dark in the room and it's just me and Jesus. Okay, that's for your quiet time. When you come together to church, like, do you know how much power there is when you can look across the room and you know what that guy over there, I'm not pointing at you, Bill, I'm pointing over there.
I'm agreeing with you. Yeah.
That guy right over there is like really struggling. And that couple over there, they're on their like last thread of their marriage, yet they're right there next to each other in church, and they're worshiping, and they got their hands raised. And that guy over there, like, I've seen the Lord go through his life, and I've seen the miracle that he is, and he is just getting it in worship.
It's that awe we talked about this weekend. Yeah.
Yes.
I have
Goosebumps.
yes, and as a worship leader, there is no greater feeling on the planet than to look out and see that the Lord is ministering and he's utilizing me as a bit of a catalyst to help with that. As I'm leading, all I'm doing is singing and trying to listen to the Spirit and go with the flow of the Spirit and those kinds of things. But when we're able to go together into the throne room of heaven, as a body of believers, there is just something absolutely beautiful about that. And there's no greater high than that.
Yeah.
No, I think when we talk about the table of community,
Yes.
there is formation that happens. It's formational. The table of community is formational. It challenges us. It pushes us. There's accountability there. There's worship that happens there that forms us and makes us into who we are in our relationship with Jesus. And I think that's the part of community that we need to be careful not to forget, is that the table of community forms us into the likeness of Jesus. And the way that happens is seeing Jesus in others. And I think it's that piece of community is really, really, really important. And Pastor Bill, I took copious notes of your sermon. So you said some things like, we were never meant to do life alone. We're not just saved from something, but we're saved into something, which is the family of God. And then also you said salvation's a communal experience, which is where we began with Pastor Bob. And it's also attractional. Community, the joy of community is attractional. And you said that as well. And it's attractional. People are lonely these days, and community, especially among the family of God, when they see joy in that space, it's attractional. And I mean, we are, and again, and I think about this, John Mark Comer said this in his book, that we're all formed by something.
Yes. We are.
We're formed by something. And maybe it's social media, which, or maybe it's a television show, or maybe it's another person we're in relationship with that is unhealthy, but we're all being formed by something, and we get to choose who we're formed by. And pulling up a chair and sitting at the table with the family of God affords us the opportunity to be formed by Jesus when we get to see Jesus in one another.
Yeah, as you were sharing, I was just thinking how important community really is to me, not just a concept we're talking about, but when we share in the Lord's Supper, you notice how the word communion and community are of the same root. And so my favorite times, personally, this is a personal preference, my favorite times of sharing communion is when we do it corporately, when together we eat of the bread and together we drink of the cup. And I would go so far even to say is when another believer extends the elements to me and looks me in the eye and says, God bless you. I mean, and all of those things in my personal preference is communion, community, I feel so strongly because for me, the church has been such a joyous experience all through my life, I mean, sure, we all get disappointed and some people say dumb things or whatever, but, that's why I titled my message, The Beautiful Mess of Christian Community, because sometimes it feels messy because all of that, but you have to roll that off and look at the bigger picture of what it means to be part of the family of God.
Yeah, you do. And I shared at a state meeting that we had, the 360 conference, about a table that formed me. And it was my grandmother's table. We called me Mommy. And someday maybe I have an opportunity to share that with this church family. But that story of Me Mommy's Table being a place of formation for me was because of Me Mommy and her life story of being raised as an orphan from the time she was 3 years old on up, formed me into this person that I am, helped to form me into the person I am today, because she was really Jesus to a lot of people that didn't have another table to sit at.
That's amazing.
And so I think for me that continues to form me even to this day. And for David and I think in ministry at times, because we do so much ministry and we're with people so much, we can pull back a little bit from that intimate community that you need a friendship. But I am really grateful for close friends that we have had over the years, that I have friends that, I can not talk to for a couple of months that are in other states that we did ministry in years ago, that I could call right now. And
Pick back right up,
pick right back up where we left off. And that's community. And that is a safe place for us to do life. And I think that's part of why we need to practice the way of community, is because we do need those safe places.
Yes.
And the more we practice it, the safer those places become, and we learn who we can trust and who we can be vulnerable with in those spaces. So,
We're talking about formation, and we're talking about safety, and and I think sometimes we might get focused perhaps on our own issues, our own personal relationship with Jesus, and the need to grow personally and things like that. But that formation and safety really extends to our families.
It does.
When we did small group together, our families, our kids were there with us. They played together, they grew together. When we said we were going to small group, they were going to small group.
Yeah.
And that formation, I think, is really important. And how awesome is it that in a community of believers, Jake, you might even, you got your kids running around with you, and your kids are safe within the community.
Yeah.
That they can go to people that are connected with, and you can trust that what those people are going to say to your children
Yes.
is good
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
You hope, anyways. I mean, that is
You hope.
for us. It was like if our kids weren't going to come to us and ask us questions,
Oh yeah.
there were people in their lives. There were other adults in their lives that I knew they could go to,
Yes.
and I could trust their
So
advice,
true.
their words,
Yep.
because we grew up in community together.
Yeah. Yeah. A few years ago, after we had lived here for several years, our oldest son was a freshman in college when the dog that we had at the time, he was 16. The dog was 16 years old. And his name was Pretzel, and he had a seizure, and we were going to have to put him down at 11 o'clock at night. And we went to the vet, we went through all the process. And on his way home, unbeknownst to us, he called.
Pretzel?
Yeah, when we put Pretzel down.
No,
the
Pretzel
dog.
called somebody?
No, our
Sorry.
son called somebody.
Okay.
On his way home, and it was one of our closest friends in Ohio, and she answered the phone, and she'd been like a sister to him. She'd been in our youth group, and then she actually came on staff with us, and then her and her husband, as they got married, became some of our closest friends, and she was the one that he called in that moment to help him grieve, which is so funny because she hated that dog. But in that moment, she was this comfort for him. And
Yes.
it's so true that the family of God does extend. And that's why it's really important, because we all want those people, not only in our lives, but in the lives of our children. So guys, thank you so much for
We
being
left
here.
some good stuff on the cutting room floor,
We
didn't
did. We did. If we could have just had this conversation on Sunday morning.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
just want to thank all of you guys. You are part of our family. This is right here. We practice the way of community as a staff when we spend time
Amen.
together.
Amen. Yep.
And I could get a little teary-eyed. So thankful.
Yeah.
So thankful for all of you guys and what you mean to us, to David and I.
It's mutual.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
So, and our church family, you are loved, you are valued, you are our family, and we love you. And we're so thankful that we have gotten to take this journey with you of practicing the way of Jesus. And we have one last week left this coming Sunday.
And it's a great great text and
Yes.
topic.
Yes. So we want
And the
to-
topic is
The topic is the
the way.
way of
Developing the
life.
rule of life.
life. Yeah. I thought I couldn't remember if it's the way
Yeah,
of life or the rule of life.
The rule of
So
life,
come
yeah.
find out what it
I was kind of
actually
curious to
is
see
on
how
Sunday.
we're gonna finally title that. That's
So-
We stumbled our way right through
We
there.
did.
Yeah. So come this Sunday and we're going to talk about the rule of life. So
we'll be much more organized by Sunday.
absolutely, we will have that down.
Yes.
So thank you guys so much again for being with me, Jake. Thanks for being with me. And we will see you next week in our last podcast on this series of Practicing the Way of Jesus.